Welcome along then to today's race here at the Formula1 Online Racing League. It's the second last round of the season at Japan. Here are the standings. K-Matic in the lead with Silver Arrow and VTEC Penalties. Only two remaining championship rivals from a mathematical point of view still in the race then. Silver Arrow on that 145 points to 158 with K-Matic in the lead. Here at Suzuka then we have this historic track here for you this weekend, or this evening rather. It's the only figure of 8 circuit on the F1 calendar. One DRS straight down the start-finish straight, and here we'll go into a hot lap with Fraser.
Hello and welcome to the R/F1 Racing League race at Suzuka. First of all, you want to make sure you have a good exit out of the last chicane. Then you open up the DRS, starting the lap right now. For the first turn, you want to brake as late as possible and be on the throttle really early. Use the upshift to get some extra rotation. Don't run out too wide. For the S's, you really want to be on the limits with speed. You don't want to scrape off too much speed, and you also don't want to take too much speed into those corners, because having that one line through here is very important. Dunlop corner is very difficult, very easy to spin out. Then coming to Degner 1 and Degner 2. Degner 1, you can really cut that curb, have a slight lift. For Degner 2, you want to again be on the throttle as early as possible. At the hairpin, you want to really just rapidly downshift to first. Then you want to use third for that extra rotation and good exit. Coming to spoon now, you want to brake after the 50 meter boards. Stay close to the inside curb, don't run out too wide, and again try to get as close to the curb as possible and have a really clean exit out of here. Coming to 130R, you want to kind of cut that corner, and you want to stay left after that, so you set yourself up pretty good for the chicane. For the chicane, you will want to brake at the 100 meter board, really downshift very fast so that engine braking helps you. You want to also cut that first part and the second part, and that's basically a lap around Suzuka.
So then, that was our lap for your pleasure and your viewing today, prior to jumping into this qualifying session now with Fraser, who will be in this lobby, which you will see shortly. So then, we have a few people joining us today then. As always, we have our fantastic man doing all the behind-the-scenes stuff, and whose birthday also is today, Mr. Tom Mack.
Thank you very much. Yep, we're going to get into this qualifying session, and let's hope that this race is all it's hyped up to be.
Absolutely. And for this potential championship decider, we also have the wonderful Ohei joining us today. Ohei, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Just had a bit of time to calm down after that exciting Div 2 race. And Tom, you... good start for the birthday boy.
Good start for the birthday boy indeed. Just to confirm, I believe I'm correct in saying, although correct me if I am wrong, Ohei, Division 2 is not sealed just yet on account of the fact that Crusoe outscored Melee in the race that has just taken place.
It's about 18 points the gap right now, so definitely a lot to make up going to Brazil, but it's still alive.
It's still alive. It's still mathematically possible. And you were just telling me there off microphone, if you like, that we do actually have one other driver in addition to VTEC and Silver Arrow who could challenge K-Matic theoretically for the title. But I'll let you explain a little bit more.
Yeah, so there was a lot of shuffling around due to stewarding decisions after the chaos in the rain last week, and it's meant that Fraser actually is just about in with a chance of the title. He trails currently by 47 points, and there are a possible 52 up for grabs, or 51 when you take into account the fact that the top 10 results count in this league. So it's possible, but I wouldn't count on it. I think our focus is definitely on those front three for the championship battle here.
So there we go then. Of course, the closest challenger is Silver Arrow, the one who has taken the second most wins in this season. So it makes a bit of sense that they would be the ones in second place at the moment. Though, of course, consistency is key. And I think that is one of the things that has shown out through this season in that K-Matic, fantastically quick driver, probably the quickest of this field. However, his inconsistency over the course of the season, he had a good run of wins at the start of the year. I'm just looking back over those results now. So we had a win in Australia, in USA, in Bahrain, then in Canada, race number 4. that's where things started to show that shakiness, those signs of the inconsistency we have occasionally seen from K-Matic in Season 1, and that's when they kind of re-emerged in Season 2 here with an 11th place, so no points at all in Canada. Then in Italy, a 9th place, then back to the top step of the podium in Austria, 2nd place in Singapore, 1st in the UK, then back down to 11th again in the Netherlands. Then last time out, of course, 5th place at Belgium, losing those valuable points to a championship rival who finished 3rd that time out, did Silverado. And then, of course, we have Mr. Consistent, Mr. Clean, Mr. VTech Panda, who has just dived into the pits now after setting a lap that was initially first, because he was the first one to complete the lap, a 1:27.027, but now the field is headed provisionally by Gabriel with a 1:26.486. Just having a look at who else is on track right now. Mark Hopkins, the only other driver at the moment on a timed lap. Everyone else is on either on an on lap or in the pits, or perhaps on an in lap, although they might just be being brave and trying to set a second lap time on their already worn tyres. Mark Hopkins, of course, your co-commentator for the Division 2 race just now. Oh, hey, how do you fancy their chances going into this one?
Well, I mean, they're a decently strong driver to be in Division 1, but considering that they spent a lot of time in the contribute with me, rather than practicing for the race, I think it might be a little bit touchy, especially in qualifying. Maybe they'll warm up to it as the race progresses.
Well, we certainly hope so after that entrance into the chicane there, going across the AstroTurf, where, Ayrton Senna once took a similar sort of line in order to rejoin the race in 1989. Of course, in Japan, it's a more difficult and he's gone off there in the S's as well. A very technical section there. He'll have deposited a bit of gravel on the racing line as well, so other drivers following through will then have to just be a bit wary of varying grip levels as they head through there. It's a tricky track to drive, this one. It's a very, very technical circuit, very much a driver's circuit, where a driver can make more difference than, say, at a track that's perhaps a little bit more compliant, where you don't have to take as many risks. We've seen over the years races like Japan 2005 and in 1988 with Senna nearly stalling at the start and then making his way back through the field, and similarly in 1989 when he was chasing Prost, went for that infamous overtake, the two of them collided, and then Senna had to do a whole lap without his front wing, pit, change it, and then chase after those cars that had overtaken him in the meantime. Still managed to get the win. But what you will notice there with those two examples, you've had Ayrton Senna and you've had Kimi Räikkönen in his prime, in his McLaren days. These were drivers who were very, very, very good at committing to an overtake, really going for it when no one else would think that an overtake was possible. So I think that's going to be the key today in the race. Of course, we've got these guys going around at the moment for qualifying, but commitment will be the key for those overtakes. You don't overtake Giancarlo Fisichella down at turn 1 without being a bit brave, or perhaps just a little bit mad, but we'd have to ask the Kimster himself for confirmation on that one. So then, just having a look at who else is out and about at the moment. You've got Neuro finishing up a lap at the moment, just going through 130R. We've then got one of the Red Bulls just crossed the start-finish line as well. A couple of yellow flags waving that section, so perhaps they went off, and we'll just watch now as the number 4 car of Neuro goes across the line, and it's P6 at 1:27.7, so just a little bit off the time that VTech set earlier on as our provisional pole. VTech, of course, one of those guys who we've mentioned is still in that championship hunt, as he's now heading up towards 130R on his out lap on a new set of soft tyres. VTech, we've seen him and we've just seen one of the McLarens go round. That was K-Matic, so our championship leader, yet to set a banker. He has, in fact, gone off at Spoon. Now, luckily for him, he is in fact, I was about to say he's on an out lap. He's on a timed lap. So that has actually ruined his time there. We're just seeing the replay of that now, and he just goes into Spoon. Big commitment, but gets his outside wheels just onto that AstroTurf, just over the curb there, loses that grip at the rear end, and then around it goes. So unfortunate for him, but he's got plenty of time to get back out there, new set of boots, and try and get himself a good time on the board. So back to VTech Panda. Oh, and just as I was about to start talking about VTech Panda, he has gone into the wall. He has gone really far off of the circuit towards the end of the S's. And unfortunately, that looks like whatever attempt he was going to put together there is ruined. And I would imagine those tyres will be as well. In terms of allocation of tyres, of course, we do this these races on a 50% scale, so you don't get quite the same number of tyres as you would do at 100%, or as the drivers would do in a real F1 race weekend. And of course, this is the part which will be familiar to those of you who will follow along and listen to me mention this every weekend, but this is short qualifying. This is only an 18-minute session long, of which we've almost used 10 minutes of that now. And if you qualify in the top 10, then much like if you reach Q3 in real life, you will then start the race on the tyres that you set that time on, unless, of course, conditions change with the weather. Speaking of which, oh hey, Tom, do we know what the weather is going to do in this race? It looks like it's going to stay relatively dry for the rest of qualifying, at least.
Yeah. I'm from what we've heard, it will remain dry for all of qualifying and all of the race. Of course, the weather can be a little bit unpredictable, especially in this game. But from what it seems, it will be a glorious sunny day for these drivers to battle it out.
Fantastic, good stuff. Well, that's what we like to see. Nice, good conditions for people to be bombing around in, but of course, a bit of unpredictability would spice things up. It would be nice to see. Of course, we had a bit of experience of that last time out in Spa. Changeable conditions and picking tyres at the right time and all that sort of thing led to a very interesting race with people surging up from further back, people dropping down, and so on. We're just having a look now at one of the Mercedes, that's Silver Arrow now, going into the first turn. Good, nice launch through there as we see him now going through the S's. Almost everybody has set a time at this point. Mark Hopkins still on those medium tyres as we see Silver Arrow going up and over the crest there on the left-hander. Once we've got all those times in, we'll then give you a rundown of who is where and what the pace is looking at. But as it is, that is a new personal best for Silver Arrow in Sector 1. He's about 400ths off of Fraser in the lead at the moment on a 1:26.4. A time which actually I think Tom may have beaten in the time trial, but I did not. So there we go. So in terms of where the rest of our field is stacking up then, of course, as I was sort of going on to mention earlier on, we've had VTech Panda doesn't tend to qualify quite as high up, but as his race performances may lead you to think, because he does tend to race very well in the race itself. But then in terms of our fast drivers, we've got some guys who are jumping in this time as well. We've got Weltering coming in from one of the other leagues. We've got One Goal, One Dream, who was doing a fantastic job in Division 2 earlier on, had a fantastic safety car restart as we watch Silver Arrow just going through the final chicane now. And he's just clipped ever so slightly, gone out of track limits and invalidated his lap time. So into the pits he goes then to get a new set of tyres on with just under 6 minutes to go in this session. So, who else have we got on track at the moment in terms of good lap times? Well, we're just watching Dog now, getting out of the way for one of the Alfa Romeos going by. I'll just find out who that is, and that's Opsin, our only Alfa Romeo, in fact, in the field today. So, Opsin then is just finishing their outlap. Why don't we go on board and listen to them as they go around Suzuka? So then, that is a lap of Suzuka with Ops in there. 1:29.386 puts him in P14. Just whilst they were going around there and we were just watching them on a sort of audio up lap, if you like, we had K-Tomatic, our championship leader, the one with the most to lose going into this round, setting their time. It's P4 currently. Not quite as quick as the times they were setting in time trial, where they were into the 125s, but still a very respectable time. And with conditions as good as they are, the track's only going to rubber up even more. It doesn't look like we've got any rain coming. There may be a chance if he's able to bomb it right back round to the pits, get through the animations nice and quickly to be able to change his tyres, get the car refueled and get back out again. There may be a small chance to be able to get round and improve on that time, but we will have to wait and see, of course. So, in terms of other drivers out on track at the moment, well, we've just had Weltering come back into the pits, having not decided to set a lap time. And then elsewhere on the grid, we've got Mark Hopkins still going around on those medium tyres from the start of this session. He's now completed, as across the line, 5 laps now on those medium tyres. Probably just trying to get a bit of practice in, you would imagine. It wouldn't really make much sense to be going around on these tyres in a regular qualifying session. It seems as though maybe a race setup is being run and evaluated just to be able to get as much progress up on the race day as they possibly can. But we will have to wait and see how that factors for them in the race. I certainly don't see them improving from their position or their time all that much, as we now cut to VTech Panda, who's now started their timed lap. So we'll talk you through this one here. So going through turns 1 and 2, then you want to make sure that you have a good exit through there, get that power on nice and easily, and then you're into these S's here. Left, right, a bit of straightening up, and then another big, long left-hander, a bit wide of the apex there for both the left and then the right that follows there for VTech Panda, but he's been able to carry the speed through. A bit wide again on the apex there, going up the hill, but then he's got it all under control. So then into Degner 1, and then Degner 2. Both very quick corners, the first being much quicker than the second, no braking required if you're really, really committed, and then down into the hairpin. If you want to then pick this up here, you use the downshifts to get your car slowed down with engine braking, and then gear 3 on exit to minimize that wheel spin, get the torque of the engine working for you there. Then hugging the insides all the way up to Spoon. Then braking just after the 50-meter board, he's then thrown it in there, another dab of the brakes there, and then close in towards that left-hander, that second part of the corner, and then down this long straight here up to 130R. And then as he starts charging down towards it, you'll then see that in modern Formula 1 cars, completely flat. Look at that. The speed that they carry through there is really quite something. The Ferrari of Timolele gets out the way there, obviously making another cameo appearance from Division 3, and then through the chicane. And would you look at that? That's an anticlimactic ending to that lap there. VTech Panda pulls into the pit. And he's retired from the session as well. Okay then. So with that retirement then, we've got Opsin out as well. So both those guys think they don't have the opportunity to improve any further. K-Tomatic is on that out lap at the moment that we mentioned he might be able to get onto. He's just now coming through Sector 2. And he's got about 40 seconds to go. So will we see the championship leader get back round again? Who's to know? But whilst we're discussing that, we've got Fraser on our screens now, going through the S's and trying to improve upon their existing provisional pole time. They're leading by about 300ths of a second to Gabriel in the Haas behind. And as they come through to the end of Sector 1 here, is it an improvement? Yes, it is. 200ths of a second, as the improvement there shows on your screen. You're now going to head up towards that hairpin once again. Let's see how he takes it compared to what we saw with VTech. A bit of a lock-up there on the front left, and then a bit wide of the exit, the apex rather, but has been able to straighten up nicely on the exit there and get powering back down towards Spoon. We're just going to stay with them just as they complete the rest of this lap here, and I can tell you that K-Tomatic has started another timed lap, so we'll be able to go to them as now Timolele, Gabriel and Neuro have all crossed the line with no time left on the clock, so they will take no further part in this session. Lazzo has now gone to the top of the timesheet, a banger of a lap in there, a 126.374. Now, will Fraser be able to get that back? Well, according to that split there, that is a no. He's trailing by just 100th of a second. He then comes through the final couple of corners, keeps it nice and tight on the exit. Will he go fastest? He does. He does. A 126.317 for Fraser there. But now, of course, we're looking to the battle behind with our two championship rivals. The two highest in the table were currently right Silver Arrow, and it doesn't look to me as though he's going very quickly. Oh, he's actually invalidated his lap there, I can see on the track map. So nothing to gain out of that for him. And, oh, unfortunately, just as we cut to K-Matic there, he also just cuts out of the track limits ever so slightly, and that is an invalidated lap time for him as well. So K-Matic and Silver Arrow will not be going any higher up the grid. And then if we just have a look further down, well, Weltering is on a personal best first and second sector. So we'll have a look and see, or rather a best first sector, I do apologise, a worse second sector for him there. Will he be able to improve at all from his P6? We'll just watch the Ferrari now coming through the final chicane in the final corner. Of course, no Suzuka bump that has existed in the F1 games for some time until this year. And no improvement in terms of position, but a good lap time nonetheless. So with that then, that's all of the drivers having set a time for this session, and that means that your man on pole is Fraser. We're going to just get the race lobby set up now then, and we'll be back with you shortly. But in the meantime, why don't you have a look at this that we've prepared for you? Welcome back then. So a bit of VT for you there, ladies and gentlemen, just to tide you over and just give you something to watch and not have to listen to me constantly and the rest of the team, as much as we would like to think that we have, the nice, lovely voices that you like to listen to. But here we are then. We are just getting set up on the grid now, just waiting for some of the players to load in. So we'll just run down the order from that qualifying session there. Then, of course, we have Fraser on pole, and they're now just starting their formation lap. So it's Fraser on pole. And then the Mercedes of Lazzo 1, 2, 3 in second. Then third, we have Gabriel in the Haas. And then the first of teammates, we have Silver Arrow in the other Mercedes in P4, then K-Matic in P5. Then just behind them, it's a Ferrari 2x2 Noah's Ark style situation with Weltering in 6th and Timolele in 7th. Then you've got VTEC Panda in the AlphaTauri in 8th with Penichiro in the Renault in P9. And then running out the top 10 is Dog in the Racing Point. For the rest of the field, we then have from 11th down, we have Neuro, Skytube, One Goal, One Dream, Sienna Bobnelio, Opsin, Mark Hopkins, Nordy, and MJ Povey 22. MJ Povey having joined a little bit later on in that session, I think, not able to take part in qualifying, and of course was our race winner last time out in Belgium. So maybe one to keep an eye on as the race goes on, but of course we'll have to wait and see if there's any first corner incidents or anything like that along the way. Okay, you've been keeping a tab of how things are going in terms of a championship situation. Of course, it could be wrapped up today. What does K-Matic need in order to win, or what does Silver Arrow or VTEC or Fraser need to be able to keep themselves in the fight?
Yes, so for VTEC and Fraser, things are looking a little bit grim. They're both trailed by more than 40 points here, and so they will not only need to probably win this race, but also have K-Matic fail to score any decent haul of points. For Silver Arrow, it's a lot closer. There's a 19-point gap right now, which means that K-Matic needs to make a 7-point delta to him. But because of the top 10 races counting rather than it being all 12, in this position, K-Matic needs at least 9 points to clinch this. So between Silver Arrow and K-Matic, 7-point delta, but at least 9 from K-Matic needed.
So then, folks, that is your lay of the land as it is right now. We have just a few cars now starting to line up on the grid. We have Fraser up at the front, and then we've now got the Ferraris just peeling into their boxes as well, and then everyone further back from them. So then, this is your Japanese Grand Prix for PC Division 1 in the R Formula 1 Online Racing League. There is a issue with the start lights in F1 2020 as it is at the moment, and that's something that we're unable to change. That is a Codemasters thing. So we will count down the lights, and then we'll have to wait and use our reactions here to see when they get moving. 5 lights then. They're out, and when do our drivers go? Now they go. It's a good start from Lazzo on the dirty side of the grid. He's been able to get up alongside Fraser, who's now lost the position. He's going side by side in turn 1, but now it's and further back, massive accident. That's Silver Arrow. That's Silver Arrow out with Weltering as well. One of the championship contenders is out, not out of the race, but certainly out of contention. You would think from this point onwards, thankfully no safety cars or anything like that, or perhaps not thankfully in the case of Silver Arrow, but back to the front, we have then a tight group forming. So Lazzo having jumped Fraser at the start, then followed by Gabriel, K-Matic, Penichiro, Timolele, Dog, SkyTube, VTech, and Neuro. VTech losing a position off at the start there, maybe a couple of positions, in fact, given that we've got two cars that were ahead of him at the start. And another Red Bull is round. That is Sienna Bobnelio. Sienna Bobnelio has gone round and is off the track. So that's one car that Silver Arrow has now re-overtaken. But as it is, things are looking pretty good for our championship leader right now to wrap this championship up with one round to go. Oh, hey, what can you tell us?
So yeah, it looks like Silver Arrow tangled with Weltering there on the start, and they both just flew round on the outside of turn 1. Now miraculously, it looks like Silver Arrow isn't carrying any wind damage from that, or if it is, it's very minimal, and so he may be able to stay out and keep the one-stop strategy that he was planning from the start here, although his tyres will not be feeling good, and he's got a lot of ground to make up here.
Absolutely not. Yeah, so as you point out, it doesn't seem to be any damage on Silver Arrow's car. It doesn't seem to be affecting him as much, at least, as Weltering, who he collided with. Weltering having lost an end plate on both sides of his front wing. So he is now naturally jumping into the pits in order to get himself repaired. Timolele has moved up past Penichiro at the start of this second lap here, who has also been succeeded by Dog, the Renault falling down the order slightly. As gaps stay relatively close up front, so we've got a 3/10, 4/10, that sort of a gap from first to second, second to third, and then Katamaki is just lingering back about that half second, just over half from those guys. It's a purple sector 1 from Fraser going through now into Degna 1 and Degna 2. And then up towards the hairpin here. Now, we saw some moves here at the hairpin in Division 2. Will we see any heroics into here? We don't from this group of cars just yet, but it's a good exit from Fraser. The Williams is now pulling up and just pulling in ever so slightly. It's now under 2/10 the gap, back over 2/10, but not by much, then back under again. We are looking at some very, very close racing here, and closing up under braking, then Constantino effect just moving away slightly as the car ahead accelerates before the Williams does. Now, will he be able to stick with that Mercedes as they go down towards 130R? Will we see any repeats of Fernando Alonso and Michael Schumacher in 2005? Well, we'll go through and find out. And now they're going 3 abreast into the final chicane here at Suzuka. What has happened there? Fraser has managed to get the move done. Gabriel has not managed to get by Lazzo, but now a compromised exit for Fraser means he could be vulnerable on this start-finish straight here. We'll just watch then as they go through. It's a couple of fastest laps coming through on our screens now, but it doesn't seem as though Fraser is losing that spot. He has maintained the position into turn 1, hasn't gone too wide, has been wide of the apexes, but hasn't gone all the way off onto the marbles. So he maintains P1 that he's taken back from Lazzo, having taken it away from him at the start then. Kate Tomasic is very close to the back of Gabriel. That McLaren is only 4/10 away. This group all very closely matched, all close together. This is going to be a fight to keep an eye on for the rest of this race, I would imagine. Looking further down the order, we've got some very close battles as well with VTech Panda, SkyTube, Penichiro and Timolele. They're all very, very close together, all about 2/10 apart then, as they now start to head up towards the hairpin at the end of the first sector and the beginning of the second. Will there be any heroics? Not from Penichiro, not from SkyTube, and not from any of the cars behind. They all go patiently, one by one, single file through that corner there. And again, as we discussed in qualifying, as we discussed going into this race, the overtake's going to happen through sheer bravery here, and I think that by sticking all the way up behind Lazzo through this straight here that they're now going through 130R, that is what allowed Fraser to get that move done, get himself into the position to execute a sort of Senna-style move into that final chicane. But now he's being fought back against by Lazzo. Lazzo very, very close. There's lockups for all 3 of the front-running cars there as they go into that chicane, but thankfully they're all still going in the right direction. They're all still chasing one another. The gap is closest now between Lazzo and Gabriel. Gabriel is about 3/10 away, but now Lazzo with the DRS is closing in on Fraser, who goes slightly defensive but maintains P1. He is able to keep that first place, and now this is where they're going to have to settle in. This is where they're going to have to start thinking about strategies. Will we undercut? Will we overcut? Because the overtaking is clearly very difficult in these modern cars around this circuit. Hey, what are your thoughts on this situation, how it's unfolded so far, and who are you keeping an eye on?
So it's been so tight at the front between those 3 cars. I think my main focus has been on Katie here, who has just been patiently sat behind, waiting to see how this unfolds, because if those 3 cars ahead cause too much disruption, that could bring him right into the battle. I also do have a little bit of intel as to what happened on the start there. It seems like a couple of severe technical problems there for Silver Arrow. A problem with his wheel and then a game crash into turn 1. That's what led to the carnage, and that is why Silverado is currently out of this session and down in P16.
Let's take a look then at the start there. We have the replay here. Now, we were having a look at one of the Mercedes. We were having a look at Silver Arrow, in fact, and yeah, he just goes straight on, unfortunately. Takes weltering with him. And as we were saying, he was very fortunate not to take any damage himself from that incident. We've now got... who's this here? That's Fraser and Gabriel, Latzo and Gabriel rather, fighting for P2 and P3, with K-Matic just snapping at their heels, ready to take advantage if they were to come together. Thankfully, they haven't. From their perspective, though, Latzo has picked up a time penalty somewhere around the circuit. You would have to imagine that's for some sort of track limit or corner cutting or something like that. They don't tend to race dirtily in this league here, so I would imagine it would not be for contact. But we will, of course, I'm sure, get on that, and then someone will be able to let us know. Perhaps hey. So we have been joined. I do apologise to him an awful lot because I actually don't know when it was that he joined us. But Quimbulus is here from Xbox Division 1. Quimbulus, how are you doing today?
Oh, not too bad. I joined in just shortly after, towards the tail end of lap 1, so I haven't been chilling for too long, but you've been keeping it well filled in. I see a few cars already picking up those track limits penalties that we're now going to be able to see on screen on that timing display, which has been also very helpful, I'd say, personally, as a driver, to not have to radio into Jeff and see what time penalties people are carrying. It shows right on your indicator right around you. But as you guys have said, overtaking is very difficult around here, and it plays much like an old school style circuit. You have to set up your overtake 2 or 3 corners in advance. So while you might be looking to make the move into the chicane at the end, you're really starting to set up that move with where you're positioning your car out of spoon to get in a good slipstream position to get that overspeed as you come through 130R and pull out in that last short little run to get hard on the brakes. The DRS zone on the front straight isn't particularly
Just going to have to
long.
cut across you there, Quimbulus. We've got a move for P2 in this race into the final chicane. Gabriel has made a move on Latzo. He'd down the inside and taking that position. He'd set it up a few times and he'd attempted it on the previous lap. But there he goes. He makes that move stick, and now he'll try and chase after Fraser, who's managed to get a whole 2.7 seconds up the road. But already, just down the start-finish straight, Gabriel's closed that down by 2/10. Sorry, back to you, Quimbulus.
No, but just exactly as I was saying, he's set that up a few corners ahead as it looks like Povy's diving down the inside of SkyTube there through turn 2, and they're going bravely side by side in the S's, but looks like SkyTube rather wisely yielding that position. One line through the S's, going side by side through there is a recipe for getting out on the marbles and ending up in the gravel pretty aggressively. But MJ Povy coming off of a finish in the Xbox division, taking the race win there, and jumping in rather late because of connection issues. We had to rebuild the lobby before qualifying, so that's why he's working his way through the field at this stage.
Exactly, and it's a good shout, in fact, is mentioning MJ Povy. Of course, as I mentioned earlier on, our race winner last time out in Belgium in PC Division 1. And he started right at the back of the field, as Quimbula says there, right at the back, and has been able to make himself up into P8 before even the pit stops, before we see that that sort of changing in strategies and things like that. Speaking of strategies, Quimbula, what were the predominant strategies that were being used in your race? Was the hard tyre in use at all, or did we see people trying their chances on just the soft and the medium?
The predominant strategy was the soft onto the hard tire, although it looks like we've got a VTEC Panda setting up SkyTube into the chicane on screen at the moment. They're not quite able to find a way through, but really the soft onto the hard was the prevailing strategy. The medium just didn't have enough of an advantage over the extra life that the hard gives. And you can see as K-Matic going onto the hard tire early, the undercut was fairly powerful in our session.
Well then, this will be something that we will watch with great interest then. So we're just keeping an eye on VTEC Panda for the moment, who's doing a sterling job holding up those cars behind and good defensive driving without needing to resort to any dirty tactics or anything like that. Again, not that we tend to see that in this particular league, but we do tend to see some drivers who are more aggressive, shall we say, with their defense. But as we can see here, and as is being pointed out in the Twitch chat, it is quite overcast in this session, so that will be affecting surface temperatures and things like that. But we don't have anything in the way of rain predicted, as Mark Hopkins has gone off the circuit. He was trying to use qualifying to get some practice in on those medium tyres, and now on the softs he's come out the end of the S's and gone straight off into the wall. Unfortunately, they're taking another trip into the gravel as he's now going to have to limp his way back to the pits. You can see there that sort of line of gravel that follows him and that dirt that follows him around the circuit. That's not going to give an awful lot of grip to the drivers that follow him either. And that would probably take a lap or two just to clear up there. We're having a look at the moment with Lazzo and Timolele. Lazzo having had a pit stop at this point, and has dropped back down the order, or I believe he's had a pit stop anyway. I'm just going to double check that information. Let's see here. He has not, in fact, he has not had a pit stop. He's still running those tyres from the start of the race, so it's just an indication of how much pace he's lost from the start. From where he was able to take the lead off of Fraser, he's now in a position where he's actually dropped back to P4, which is effectively P6, given that both Fraser and K-Matic have both pitted at this point. Fraser currently in those pits. They're getting those hard tyres on. It's going to be interesting to see where K-Matic comes out relative to him. And we're just waiting to see now, but it seems as though Fraser has maintained his position ahead of K-Matic. So, lucky for him there, he's been able to maintain a 4-second gap to the championship leader. He's certainly not going to make it easy for him to have another win to end up winning the season, but we will wait and see as to how this race develops. Anything can happen. We're only at lap 8 of 27 as it currently stands. So those cars yet to pit are all of those cars from P1 to P11. That includes One Goal, One Dream, who started on hard tyres, and then Neuro and Skytube, who both started on those mediums there, who are currently going side by side, in fact. That's a brilliant bit of driving between the pair of them. They're keeping it nice and clean. Neuro seems to be the one out on top at the moment as they're closing in on VTech again. It's one of these things where you get caught up in a train behind a slower car that you want to overtake. You know you have that pace over, but you just struggle to follow on a circuit like this and struggle to get that move made. So then as a result, you get stuck behind them. The car that's then of similar pace to you, but quite a while back, catches up to you, and then you've got to defend as well as attack. So really, of all the drivers that we're looking at the moment here in that little squabble, Neuro is the one worst off at the moment. We're just having a look as well at Lazzo, who has gone into the pits. He's gone in with Timolele and Dog as well. The Mercedes mechanics working quickly, but not quickly enough to get him out ahead of Timolele. Dog, however, has been able to make his way out between Timolele and Lazzo, so the Ferrari mechanics there doing an excellent job, and a good call in terms of strategy from the Ferrari mechanics, which is something that I don't have the opportunity to say very often, but there we go. We've got a position change again. We've got K-Matic now ahead of Timolele with those lap older tyres, and we will wait and see as to what the fire-up temperatures are like for these tyres. You know, how quickly are they able to get them working again from when they come out the pits. VTech Panda is now defending from Neuro once again, as Skytube has been shaken away ever so slightly from the McLaren. So now right up behind VTech is Neuro, and that is probably the closest battle on track at the moment. This is now 1/10 gap as all the way around the outside, which will turn to the inside for Spoon. Neuro gets that move made, and he gets up into P number 4. And through he goes then on VTech Panda. Just to give you a quick update in terms of penalties, currently Gabriel, MJ Povey, who's now made his way all the way up to second place, have penalties, and then further down the field, Lazzo 123, Oxin, and Weltering all have penalties as well. So then, of these cars currently circulating at the moment, MJ Povey definitely the biggest gainer in terms of positions. He has been able to get up to Gabriel, who was on the second row of the grid before they've pitted, and then as I say that, MJ Povey goes into the pit. So the Williams driver into the pits now. We'll see whereabouts they come out relative to the rest of the field, how many places they've been able to get through this pit stop phase since the start of the race, starting from the back then, as we see those Williams mechanics popping the hard tyres on. As we continue to then watch just out on track, we have the gap is relatively stable between Neuro and VTech Panda. Neuro slightly is starting to eke it out now. He certainly had a good pace advantage behind as they were going along. And oh, crikey, we've seen some action into turn 1 there. That is Skytube, Silver Arrow, and no, that isn't. Sorry, I do apologize. That's Dog and Lazzo going wheel to wheel. Someone on the grass as they went down into turn 1, but then coming out of it in one piece. There's no end plates that have flown off or anything like that I can see. So these cars keeping it nice and clean for the most part, though maybe a bit of cross-country going on here. We're just going to watch this replay then. We were watching the Williams come out the pits there, and the Mercedes just, he's clearly started up Valtteri Bottas's lawn mowing company that he originally saw its debut in Austria this year. But there we go. So that's how that ended up going out there then. So in terms of how many stops everyone has made then, Forza Juve, I apologize. So everybody has now made a stop except for the front 6 runners. Everybody has made a stop apart from the front 6 runners. So soft runners are going to try for mediums? I don't think so. Based off of what Cumulus was saying earlier on, it seems as though that medium doesn't give you enough of a pace advantage as we watch the Ferrari and the Williams battling nice and close here. MJ Povey right up behind Timolele and right on the cusp of getting them to the points again. And Timolele's car seems to be ghosting on my screen. I don't know if that's the case in the broadcast. I have been told just in my ear there that he's disconnected. So an easy pass then for Fraser, just going by the AI ghost Timolele bot, if you will. And then into P10. So that's 1 point for the Williams driver. He's helping out his teammate, who of course is been lone Williams. Had Tom JB as a teammate for a while, and then we've not seen him for a little bit. We hope that we see him again, maybe in the last race or possibly even next season. So then, we're just keeping an eye on VTech Panda at the moment, going through the S, and now this is interesting. VTech Panda is on the medium tyre. Now, this is something that we didn't think would happen, soft tyres onto medium tyres, but we have seen on a number of occasions in this season and the previous season that VTech Panda does like to go for these alternate strategies. And this plays into what I was talking about in qualifying. He does then end up having much better Sundays than his Saturdays would suggest. So maybe this is a masterstroke, maybe this is a bit of an experiment. Who knows? VTech Panda's the only one who knows because presumably he's been the one practicing it. So we'll keep an eye on him and his lap times and how he advances on the rest of the field. He's coming up to a small train of cars now then from P9 to P12. So we'll see how effectively he's able to move through there with a softer grade of tyre and a slightly newer tyre as well versus those hard tyres ahead. Penichiro also on the mediums actually as well. The Renault driver also moving on to mediums. So maybe it's these two cars the ones we're going to need to keep an eye on. Gabriel has also made the move onto the mediums, so really this theory that we had that the mediums would not be used by the soft tyre runners at the start of this race is complete hokey. So we will carry on then as Fraser sets the fastest lap of the race on 1:30.595 as we see Silver Arrow now in the pits and coming out on the medium tyre again. So there we go, medium tyres all around then for about half the field then. So
yeah, it might have been a difference between how much the cars were able to wear the tires. In the Xbox Division race, just about everybody was off of their starting set of softs by lap 7 or lap 8. We've seen quite a few drivers take those soft tires 10, 11 laps, so that may open up the possibility for them to finish on that medium tire, because really the degradation and the amount of heat they were putting into the front tires was really what was impacting those softer compounds, and being able to maintain the correct operating temperature through the S's is where the hards had the advantage, but that can all be down to your camber and toe settings, and keeping those front tires in the right window could make those medium tires work. They've definitely stretched the softs, so clearly they've got a pretty good advantage as far as tire wear is concerned. So they may have got a great setup for the Sundays, as we were talking about with VTech Panda, to run this slightly softer compound and not chew it up as hard as a lot of the drivers in the Xbox Division did.
So there we are then. Now the telemetry is not quite working correctly on my screen. I'm not sure if that's the same on the broadcast, but if it is, that again will be a Codemasters issue rather than a league issue. But currently the closest battle I can see on track is between Timolele and Penichiro, the Ferrari and Renault driver respectively. They are nice and close, tucked up behind Dog as well, all within about a second of each other. And we'll just have to wait and see through use of ERS and DRS whether or not we'll have any good fights here. Gabriel has set the fastest lap of the race with a 1:30.342. The Haas driver making a welcome return to the league and racing hard. And speaking of racing hard, Lazzo is now making a move around the outside of One Goal, One Dream into turn 1. And there we go, reminiscent of the move that we mentioned at the start of this broadcast. Kimi Räikkönen around the outside of Giancarlo Fisichella in 2005 at this very circuit. So, good moves there from Lazzo, making his way back up the order after a bit of a shaky first stint, and hopefully we get to see a bit more fight from him as the race goes on. His teammate has managed to recover to P13 as it is at the moment on that first lap on the new medium tyres they've put on, and about 3 seconds of drift from VTech Panda. We're just watching then this very tight train of cars then, with Dog leading that train at the moment, Timolele, Penichiro, and then VTech at the back there. So will we see any moves into this hairpin? We don't see any this time, but you would have a think that maybe they were close enough to give something a try. And now Timolele very close. He's enabled the overtake if we go on board here, but now he's disabled it, so not quite thinking he'll be able to get the move done there. But we have seen, of course, that move around the outside earlier on from one of the Mercedes drivers, if my memory is serving me correctly. And now they'll go down this straight towards 130R. Now, How are they going to fare down here? That is the real question. Will Dog be able to get enough of a distance to be able to escape a move into the final chicane? We will find out in just a second as Fraser goes by Skytube, who has gone into the pits for a new set of boots. And no, he does not trance the move, does Timalele, into that final chicane. But we'll ride on board with them down the start-finish straight and just see whether or not... Oh, and we've seen a Renault go off. That is the Renault of Penichiro, who was going so well. And as now Timalele goes to the inside in turn 1, he goes down the inside and kind of runs Dog out of road there, but he's got the new position now. He's in P8, and now virtual safety car has been deployed. Now, is that for the Renault of Penichiro? No, it's the Renault. It's spun at Spoon. It's Sienna Bobnelio. Oh dear, and that is a real shame. Sienna Bobnelio was having a great little time there, really extracted some good pace from his car, and now unfortunately into the barrier. So virtual safety car then, for those not in the know, we have a virtual safety car in Formula 1, whereby if we don't want to deploy the full safety car, bunch the field up, we just want to neutralize the race, as we now go green flags and back to racing, then that's what they do. They have to stick to a lap time delta, which then maintains all the gaps as they are, in theory. Sometimes people can get some advantages out of it, notably in the pit stop phases. But we're just watching now as we see the racing point of Dog going side by side with VTech Panda. VTech Panda swoops all the way around the outside, and Dog has now disappeared from my screen. Dog is out of this race. Dog is out of the race. He must have had some sort of spin on the inside as he was going side by side with VTech Panda, and away he's gone. On the entrance to Spoon, I'm being told, was where that incident was. So Dog out of this race as well. Yellow flags being waved in Sector 2. Will we see another virtual safety car, or perhaps a full course safety car? That would really bring Silver Arrow back into this race with only one lap on his medium tyres, would give him a significant pace advantage over some of the harder tyre runners ahead of him. In terms of that championship battle, currently K-Tomatics in 4th place and Silver Arrow in 10th. VTech Panda in 9th, although, as I say, that the two of them swap positions, so now VTech Panda behind Silver Arrow. Oh, hey, in terms of the championship, where does that leave us at the moment? Is that enough points for K-Tomatic to win it this time out?
So yeah, just about how it stands right now, K-Tomatic will be getting 12 points from this race, and the 2 points from Silver Arrow won't quite be enough. However, I've been on board with Silver Arrow for a good few laps, and he managed to get back into the session on about lap 5, and has been flying ever since, slicing through the field. He's actually the last one out on the soft compound tyres before going to the mediums, and he's looking to attack the hard compound motors ahead. So he's got a fight for the championship life here, and he seems like he's got a lot to fight with.
Absolutely, and this is the thing, is we've also seen on the track map here that Silver Arrow, as he's maybe thinking about a move on Timalele there, has set the fastest first sector of this race. So as they come down towards this straight down to 130R, we'll see whether or not it's a purple second sector, as well as he enables the overtake to be able to maintain a nice close gap to Timalele in front. The Ferrari driver able to put on a good defense so far, but will he be close enough to One Goal, One Dream to be able to get DRS down the start-finish straight? You would think so, looking at the gaps. Yes, we'll see how the exits are out of this corner. But again, this is Silver Arrow on the younger, softer compound, that medium compound versus the hard compound. And now, as One Goal, One Dream heads into the pits, it leaves Timalele without a slipstream. And whilst he has the DRS, it is a fairly clinical move from Silver Arrow up the inside and into P7. He's now chasing after his teammate Lazzo123, who does have penalties. Crucially, Silver Arrow does not. Now then, with P7 there and potentially P6, how would that affect the championship there, Ohe?
Well, now with 6 points available for P7, as this stands, the championship would survive until Brazil. However, it is still very close for Silver Arrow, especially because Neuro in front is still needing to pit, and that would promote K-Tomatic into a podium position. So he's got to keep pushing, but he's given a good show right now, and he might be able to survive this race.
Absolutely, we'll certainly keep an eye on it. It would be very entertaining to see the championship go down to the final race, even though it would seem a little bit of a formality at that point if the gap was quite so large, but we will stick with it and keep you informed. We're just having a look at VTech Panda at the moment, the closest car to anybody else on track. He is currently within DRS range of Timalele, but currently not going through a DRS straight. There's only one at Suzuka, and that is down the start-finish straight. If you ask me, there should be one down this straight here, but there we go. I'm not involved in decision-making in Formula 1. He's been going very, very quickly, in fact, as Vitek Panda, relative to Timalele. He's been able to close that gap down over the last few laps. And perhaps on this straight here, we'll see him use DRS, but I doubt very much he'll be able to actually affect a move on this particular lap. But he does have about 20% more ERS energy available to him than Timalele does. So maybe just another lap or two, just gathering ERS together to be able to then go for a proper push lap might give Vitek that ability and that opportunity to be able to get by. Nordi, just further down the field, has been able to make a move, but that is on Opsin, who's just dived into the pits, so no on-track action there. Opsin opting for the soft tyres, as has One Goal, One Dream on the lap prior. So soft tyres for the Renault, soft tyres for the Alpha. Now, in terms of the rest of the gaps in the field, then we'll have a look again at Vitek Panda. He is the closest to anybody on the circuit at the moment. All the other gaps have sort of stabilised at around about sort of 2 to 4, possibly even 5 seconds in some cases. So things have calmed down a little bit. We're at that midpoint in the race where people are maybe conserving tyres or trying to make any moves, things like that. Fraser has so many girlfriendos, according to Ribrantic in the chat. So there we go then. That is something I did not know until just now. But there we are. So we're watching as, interestingly, we see Neuro going into the pits now. I say interestingly, I wasn't keeping an eye on the number of laps he'd done. He's done 17 laps on those medium tyres. He's coming in now for softs, which presumably he'll use to go to the end of the race. Quimbulis, what do you reckon in terms of that decision there? Will softs get you to the end with just under 10 laps to go?
Yeah, if they're a fresh set of softs, and if he qualified on the medium compounded tire, that means he did a run where he was able to save a set of softs. They should have no problem getting to the end of this race. They'll probably start to lose a little bit of their overall pace about 7 or 8 laps into their stint, but they'll be mega for the first part of that stint there. So look for him to, if he's coming out, he's only 2.5 seconds back of Lazzo there, and he's importantly slotted in between Silver Arrow and Lazzo. So now Silver Arrow has another car to overtake to continue his championship hopes.
Absolutely. Now, of course, with soft tyres and having run reasonably high up, you know, we're counting these gaps here. It's about 2 seconds from Neuro to Lazzo, then about 4 seconds from Lazzo to MJ Povey, and then 5 seconds from MJ Povey to K-Matic. So that's coming in at around about sort of 11, 12 seconds or so. Now, with brand new soft tyres versus what are on K-Matic's car, 10-lap-old hard tyres, you would think that perhaps this gives Neuro an opportunity here to be able to close down on his teammate, overtake him, get onto the podium, and perhaps then even make a further advance up the field towards Gabriel and Fraser. What do you reckon?
Yeah, we'll definitely keep an eye out on the sector times as he's getting those soft tires up to temperature. They'll get up to temperature a lot quicker than the hards did, so he should be turning in pretty indicative lap times pretty much right away. So we'll see if he's able to close up that roughly 1.5 seconds, almost 2 seconds a lap needed, because he's also going to have to make those overtakes, which are very tough around Suzuka.
Absolutely, absolutely right. And of course, with K-Matic in the championship lead, you would think that he probably wouldn't want to try anything too risky in this stage. And as I say that, he has a bit of an excursion onto the grass there, heading into the start of the S section at the start of the lap there. That won't have done his tyres all that much good, and certainly won't have done all that much good in trying to advance towards Gabriel and Fraser at the front. But this is one of these opportunities here where it could be that a fast-charging Neuro, you know, if you was K-Matic, you know, you're that competitive streak that all of the drivers in this league have, would you just let your teammate by who's on the clearly quicker tyre, or would you, in the interest of trying to wrap up the championship early, defend your position here?
I'd probably defend, but not over-defend. I'd probably pick a line into each corner and make the car behind make the move, but not try too hard to break the toe, as Neuro's already closed up on Lazzo. He's eaten that 2.5 seconds up in that one lap, so that'll tell you the kind of pace he has over a hard compounded tire. But we'll see. It's going to be interesting whether Kato is going to try and hold that position and wrap up the championship, or if Neuro's going to make a move. If they're not careful, they could end up costing each other significantly if they come together in an overtake attempt.
So then, as rightly pointed out there by Quimbulis, he has caught up, has Neuro, all the way to the back of Lazzo there. He's not using his overtake, he just has such an overspeed heading into, and lock up there. Lock up from Lazzo allows Neuro to simply sweep by the Mercedes and through the corner there. Now, crucially, it's two Mercedes side by side down the start-finish straight at Suzuka. Lazzo gets right out the way of his teammate, or is being very defensive, one of the two, but they are pretty much side by side. No, Silverarro has made it by now, and that's the other thing I wanted to mention, is that Silverarro on those medium tyres is putting in some phenomenal lap times. He's able to really take the fight to the guys ahead of him, has been able to make up an awful lot of ground, especially when you consider that without a full course safety car, we've had the virtual safety car, of course, but without the full safety car to bunch everybody back up, this is the guy who went off circuit at the very start of this race and was very much last, and he's been able to make it all the way up here. Same with MJ Povey. MJ Povey is in 4th place at the moment, about 5 seconds ahead of Neuro as it is now, and we'll probably see the McLaren start to eat into that lead that the Williams has over them fairly quickly. But MJ Povey has done an excellent job in recovering ground that was lost by not being able to take part in qualifying. So these are some great recovery drives. This is reminiscent of Japan 2005 with Kimi Raikkonen and Alonso and Schumacher all starting much further down the field than they likely would have done in normal circumstances, but of course qualifying was a bit different that year, what with aggregate times and all the rest of it. So if we have a look then at some of our gaps on circuit, VTech Panda still the closest of anybody on circuit at the moment to someone else, and that is still in pursuit of Timolele, with the AlphaTauri driver still hunting them down, still around about that seconds gap or so. We then have Weltering actually has been able to close up on Penichiro. There's about a half-second gap to the Renault ahead, and Weltering is on brand new soft tyres, so you would think that versus 5-lap-old hard tyres that are on Penichiro's car, this will be a formality that is simply done at some point soon, rather. I do apologise, a hiccup in the middle of my sentence. So we'll just stay on board here as we watch them go through 130R. There's nothing quite like seeing a Ferrari going through 130R on brand new soft compound tyres. We'll see just how much they're able to carry more speed through here than Penichiro, and look at that, pulling alongside even before they've got to the chicane and then braking ahead into the chicane. Slight lockup as now a time penalty for K-Matic. 3 seconds time will be added onto his race time. That's unlikely to affect him in terms of a threat from MJ Povey, given that MJ Povey himself has a time penalty. I'm sure that Ohei will be able to update us on the penalty situation across the grid in just a moment, but Neuro is the one who's going to be the one to watch here, as we've been talking about. He's got those soft tyres on, and he will be making some inroads soon, as he already has, in fact. Ohei, what can you tell us in terms of penalties and all the rest of it?
So in terms of penalties, everyone who has that black and white flag next to their name has a solid 3 seconds, other than Weltering, who's carrying 9 seconds. But the key thing to spot there isn't actually on the penalties, the fact that Weltering just stole the fastest lap from Silverarro, who was holding onto it on those medium tyres for a long time. Neuro was off by 100th on that last lap, but the Ferrari of Weltering managed to take it by a second. And as things stand, K-Matic would win the championship here on countback. That fastest lap was all that was keeping Silverarro within striking distance going into Brazil.
There we are then, interesting developments then as we see what is going to happen over the course of this race. Of course, as Ohei has pointed out earlier on in the stream, it's only the top 10 results that will count towards your championship tally, and for someone like K-Matic, who has gotten the most wins this season, that is going to help them an awful lot. It's slightly reminiscent to the system that they used in 1988, for instance, where even though Prost scored more points than Senna, it was Senna's title to gain because he won more races. So then, we're just now watching as Weltering is just chasing down in that picture-in-picture view there. He is right up behind One Goal, One Dream, who is racing on a keyboard, in fact. So there's something to just give you a bit more appreciation for what One Goal, One Dream is doing at the moment. He's putting in some solid times, and he's staying ahead of the soft-shod Ferrari behind him with those 3-lap younger tyres that he has on the car. We're now also having a look at Timolele and VTech Panda, whilst I keep an eye on the Renault versus Ferrari. I'm also having a look over at that battle between the AlphaTauri and the Ferrari. It seems to be that the gaps are relatively stable between the two of them. Timolele seems to lose most in Sector 1, as you can see there on the graphic, versus VTech, but then it's in this final sector where you're going through this long straight, you're then going through 130R where there's not much in terms of cornering demand placed on the car or the tyres, and then into the chicane, and then obviously the exit out towards the start-finish straight. That is where VTech needs to gain some time, as now around the outside heading into Spoon, Weltering is trying to make the move on One Goal, One Dream. He doesn't quite make it happen on this occasion, but then on the second part of the corner, he's just alongside, but not quite there yet. He's just briefly used a spit of overtake to be able to get alongside but he's now no longer using it. They're now heading down to 130R. This is going to be, oh no, maybe not then, as the Renault just gets back ahead ever so slightly by a hair, as the Ferrari and the Renault battle hard to keep their positions. They're not even in the points, but they're going really, really hard. Look at this. And then, of course, we've got, as pointed out in the chat, we've got Timalele, Division 3 driver, who is in P8 at the moment, doing very, very good job, as now, side-by-side, turns into an overtake, as Weltering goes past One Goal, One Dream, who held on there and defended very, very well, but unfortunately couldn't keep that Ferrari behind, as it turns out. So then, looking at these gaps once again, the thing that's interesting to me is that Neuro has not closed up at all to MJ Povey over the last few laps. The gap has maintained at about 5.3 seconds or so, as we switch back to VTech Panda chasing Timalele now. And let's have a look here. So, in terms of this battle then, so they're very close together still. There's about a 3/10 gap now. It's slowly coming down. VTech is not using his overtake yet. It's about 70% available to him, but he's still not using it, perhaps saving it for this start-finish straight. Timalele has only about 30% overtake, so there's a massive surplus in VTech's arsenal that he could use, which he now switches on. So we'll just have a look and see. Will the use of DRS and overtake in combination be able to get him by Timalele? The thing he's been trying to do for lap after lap after lap. He goes to the inside, and then up the inside he goes, maintains that position, makes the overtake work. A good move there for VTech Panda, moving up into 8th place. I don't suppose that's going to do all that much, though, in terms of keeping his championship hopes alive. Oh, hey, as speaking of championship hopes, K-Matic is now off the circuit. K-Matic has spun round. He is off at the end of the S's, and he is now dropping like a stone. He's had some sort of a spin, and I just noticed that he'd gone behind MJ Povey. I thought they weren't that close on track for a move to have been made, and then there he is. He's gone off the circuit, and that has really changed the game in terms of this championship. Oh, hey, what can you tell us with this development?
I mean, I was just prepared to start talking about K-Matic having the provisional championship win, but there he goes now. It's all to play for. By a lot of things, it will be a gap of about 11 points as things stand going into the final race. So Silver Arrow is definitely still in this and has driven a fantastic recovery drive to keep his championship hopes alive.
For the other champions so far with Silver Arrow, we'll wait and see how these next couple of laps go, but it certainly doesn't give a lot of time for K-Matic to be able to recover positions. And of course, with him now down in P9, there's a very, very real possibility that if he needs to... Oh, and I appear to be migrating host. I will be right back with you. I will leave you in the capable hands of Quimbulus and Ohei as I re-establish a connection to the lobby.
Yeah, from a quick look, it looks like K-Matic was able to avoid any kind of wing damage. He's still out on track, so if he had gotten into that wall on the exit of the S-curves, it definitely would have put him well outside the points. But now that's allowing Neuro to try and just look straight ahead. He's not going to have to worry about getting past his teammate, as we were talking earlier, but Gabriel now starting to close by a couple of tenths a lap onto Fraser and has gotten himself back into the DRS range. Now, Fraser, though, not carrying any time penalties versus Gabriel's 6 seconds, but of course, you know, for a matter of pride, taking that win on track, taking that checkered flag is also something that the drivers drive for, even though they may lose out on those positions. Neuro, though, starting to make some inroads on MJ Povey now, has gained about a half a second on him over the course of the last lap or so. Might have been that MJ Povey had to check up a little bit with Kato nearby in the spin and respecting those yellow flags there. But otherwise, looking up and down the field, not too many people within that 1 second mark. Timalele and VTech Panda are starting to stretch out after having fought for so many laps. VTech Panda has about a 1.5 seconds advantage over the two, but up at the front of the field is your closest battle between Fraser and Gabriel.
Thank you very much for keeping the reins there, Quimbulus. I am all back and loaded into the session. So hopefully, as we see Silver Arrow set the fastest lap, a 1:29.9, again, that throws another variable into this championship battle. So we will wait and see over these next couple of laps. So this lap, the penultimate lap of the Japanese Grand Prix for PC Division 1 of the Online Racing League for our Formula 1. And we will wait and see who your winner will be. It certainly looks like it'll be Fraser, but let's not say never. We thought that K-Matic would possibly be winning this race, winning this championship rather, this race, but it seems as though all chances of that have disappeared with that spin. So we will have a look then at our close gaps on track. So certainly Gabriel is the closest on track to anybody else at the moment that I can see on my screen, as we see Mark Hopkins in the Red Bull taking a little excursion over the kitty litter, and Fortunately for him, he's able to keep the car going and not spin around at all, but unfortunately, he is right at the back, about 30 seconds gap from him, then to the next car ahead. So Gabriel then is right on the back, about half a second or so behind Fraser. We'll keep an eye on these two then as we head round 130R and towards the final chicane. We'll then see, as they go across the line, what the gap is. There's a lockup from both cars there, both of them carrying just a bit too much speed into that corner. And it seems a good exit from Gabriel that time, very good exit. In fact, he's got DRS, he's got overtake. Now he needs to make a move, but then crucially, as was touched upon by Quimulus there, he now needs to pull a 6-second gap this lap just to be able to retain P. In terms of, I mean, he will keep it on the road if he manages to stay ahead, of course, but in terms of those penalties, he will not keep the win here. And then further to that, he needs to make sure he doesn't make any mistakes, doesn't lose a massive amount of time to MJ Povey behind, who, whilst he does carry a penalty, it is a less significant penalty. So if enough time is lost by Gabriel, he could potentially lose not just P1, but P2 as well. So we'll keep an eye on these guys then. Weltering is currently the closest car to anybody on circuit at the moment. He's got 6-lap-old softs versus Nordy's 17-lap mediums, hards rather, but the Haas driver outside the point. So even if Weltering manages to make the move and then get enough time on Nordy, because he also has a penalty, then it will be unlikely that he'll be able to make any moves stick as they cross the line. It's now 1/10 the gap as they go down the start-finish straight, DRS open, and a fairly clinical move there from Weltering there. So will he be able to make up the time? We will see. We will see over the course of this lap. But we now see Gabriel is about 7/10 ahead of Fraser. Fraser, we were talking about, does need a very good result in these last two races in order to make sure that he has some chance in this championship fight. And now, as we see them come through the final chicane, he is maintaining a 6-second gap here. And so whilst Gabriel comes round and finishes across the line first, finishes on the road first, Gabriel goes second when time penalties are applied, and Fraser, with a little love tap into the wall, has become your winner. MJ Povey then comes across the line in third place, and then Neuro will follow up and cross the line now and go into fourth. Silver Arrow then, a fantastic recovery drive from the Mercedes driver with wheel problems at the start and the game crashing, has been able to recover from the very back to fifth. VTech Panda crosses the line in sixth. Lazzo then is seventh, and Timalele in eighth. Katamatic manages to maintain P9 after his spin at the start of lap 25, and then Gaichu rounds out the points for the moment. Line now, and we'll just wait and see how many penalties are applied to him versus Weltering, and then whether or not Weltering will be able to offset that. I imagine that the answer will be no, and that will be your top 10, but we'll wait and see just to confirm results. And again, off into the grass, Weltering goes, and Nordy retakes the place after penalties are applied, and Penichiro also takes a place there from him. So that is your top 10 then. Fraser, Gabriel, MJ Povey, Neuro, Silver Arrow, VTech Panda, Lazzo 123, Timalele, Katamatic, and Skytube. Then rounding out the rest of the field, we have Nordy, Penichiro, Weltering, and then we still have Opsin and Mark Hopkins across the line, as they have just done there. And then just rounding out the positions in P15, so not quite at the back, is One Dream there. So, One Goal, One Dream, rather. I knew I got that wrong, but there we go then. So that is your Japanese Grand Prix. The game has decided that the driver of the day is MJ Povey. We will, of course, get on to the thoughts of our panel in just a moment's time, but crucially, we've had Fraser win. He needs to get maximum points to keep his championship hopes alive. We've had Silver Arrow gain points, not lose them against Case Mask after a horrible start. And VTech Panda has also gained points versus Kate Tematic. So heading into Brazil, this championship is not over. We can still see an upset, and we will join you next week for that finale. Now, ladies and gents who are joining me today on the commentary team, first of all, we want to thank you very much for participating and helping us out today. Tom, we'll start with you. I've been unusually kind to you this race, probably because it is your birthday, and not referring to you too much, because we do know that you don't like to get on the commentary all that much. Who do you think your driver of the day was for that race there?
I was completely caught out at the end. I was so engrossed in the action that I completely missed the fact that it was the last lap. So I didn't really have too much time to collect my thoughts. But I got to agree with, I think the game gave it to MJ Povey, but I really enjoyed Neuro going from P11 to P4 with an alternate strategy as well. So Neuro for me was driver of the day.
Fantastic. Well, that's a sound analysis there, I would say. Then let's go to Ohei next. Ohei, what did you think of that race? Who was your driver of the day?
Driver of the day has to be Silver Arrow there. just that horrible instant at the start, under so much pressure, knowing the championship was on the line, just managed to hold his nerve, push through the field, and actually is in quite a good position now. If I give a quick championship update, Silverado is only 5 points behind Matic going into the final race of the season. And Fraser, against all odds, is still in the running for this championship. Unfortunately, VTech Panda will have to wait until next season.
There we are then. So not quite keeping his championship hopes alive from VTech Panda, but a good race from him regardless, I thought. Quimbulus, will then come to you. Who was your driver of the day?
I'm going to have to agree with Ohei and go with Silver Arrow. I mean, having a major issue that has significant championship implications happen on the first lap can just throw you into an absolute funk and could have totally killed their motivation for the rest of the race. But they put their head down, rejoined the session, and turned in a great performance, able to take advantage of the mistake that Kato has made, as they've done several times over the course of this season. So Silver Arrow's got to be it. I do have to give a little bit of an honorable mention, though, to Weltering, putting their finger on the championship scales, even though they finished out of the points, taking that fast lap away from anybody inside the top 10.
Some sound analysis there. I think for my part, I'm torn. I'm torn between either MJ Povey or Silver Arrow as my driver of the day. So I think I will cheat because I can, and I'll just say I split the award in half and give it to both of them. So there we go. Then drivers of the day for me and driver of the day for everybody else. One rule for me and one for thee. So. That is our race this time then, folks. The Japanese Grand Prix for the R Formula 1 Online Racing League PC Division 1. We thank you for watching, all of you. And that goes to every single viewer, whether you are new, whether you are returning. We really appreciate your support. Of course, if you are interested in the league or in Formula 1 in general, of course, this league is run by R Formula 1, the Formula 1 subreddit. So go check that out. We also have the R F1 Racing League subreddit. That one is there if you want to join us, if you want to get involved, whether that be maybe for any of the maybe the special events that we're planning in the off-season period, quote unquote, or whether you want to join us at the start of season 3. So go check either of those out, join those communities, get chatting to us, let us know what you are thinking. I want to give a big thank you to Tom, to Ohei, and to Quimbulus for joining me today in their respective roles. They're all fantastic at what they do. And the last thing that I will say, of course, these guys can jump in as well if they have any closing thoughts, but I will say once again, a big happy birthday to our man behind the scenes, Tom Mack. He is, he's not actually said to me how old he is today, so I won't out him on the stream as being too old or too young or anything. But certainly he has put an awful lot of time and effort into this league, and I just wanted to give him that appreciation there on his birthday. So well done, Tom. Happy birthday to you, fella.
Thank you very much. Yep, 22, I think, today, 22. And hopefully a few more years of doing this, because this has been great fun this year, and a year full of distractions and unwanted distractions. This has been a much kinder one, and thanks to everyone who's wished me well today. And well, let's just look forward to next week, where we've got 2, potentially 3 championship deciders.
Absolutely. So that is the thing to remember then, folks. Next time out, 1 week's time, we have our finale at Brazil. And if you're still watching, do not adjust your sets. We have just a little bit of a preview for you. Thank you very much for watching, folks. We'll see you next time.